You are listening to The Review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Review. It's just the two of us this week, Brother John, Brother me, Phil.
Yeah.
Two of the many online sports guys.
Brother me, he says. Brother me.
Life has kind of gotten in the way of a couple of the other members of the OSG sports team this week. So we're going to just kind of talk about what ended up being a week where we were just talking before the show started, where a national power learned that SEC football in week 1 and SEC football in week 8 are not necessarily the same thing.
True. Absolutely true. So please elaborate, sir.
The Georgia Bulldogs made the trip down to Austin, Texas with a whole bunch of other people in a busy week in Austin, where not only is that game, the game of the century this week was played, but you had a Formula One race and the end of Austin City Limits, the last couple of recordings, and getting there was a bit of a challenge. But if you got there, you got to see the Georgia Bulldogs take Texas to the woodshed 30-15 in a game that really wasn't that close.
No, okay, so let's see if we've got it figured out. So it was Georgia and Texas at DKR. It's the Formula One race at Circuit of the Americas. It is Sting and Eminem wrapping up the shooting schedule for ACL 50. It's decision day in the regular season for Major League Soccer. So you had a soccer matchup at Q2 out in the suburbs involving Austin FC, Los Verdes. So you could not get a hotel room inside the the downtown business district, the downtown district of fun. That, it's like half a mile or so away from the Texas campus. You couldn't get in the door for less than $750. And that's obviously for the lower end hotels. There were hotels that were going for like $1,050, $1,100. I mean, and that was the normal rate for that downtown business district to actually just get in the door and be a part of things. So it was a party, and it is a party. Who is this? Who's the schedule maker? I want to know who the schedule maker was to lay all of this stuff out. It's this would be a good idea to schedule Georgia and Texas at DKR downtown the same weekend that you have the world coming to Austin, Texas for the Formula One race, the U.S. Grand Prix, plus ACL for music fans who might not have any interest in college football whatsoever or in Formula One racing or for Major League Soccer on decision day. Yeah, we're going to just go ahead and do all of that together. Yes, I know that Bergstrom International Airport is building another concourse, which they desperately need. And if you really want to make a financial windfall, license yourself and build a hotel out at Bergstrom now because of everything going on. But I want to know who the schedule maker was that got all this stuff squared away in the first place.
It's a good
Tell me. I want to know.
In the world of college football, which is the world that we are currently living in, or at least talking about. The Georgia Bulldog defense came to play. They were not taking any prisoners against the Longhorns. And they were in Quinn Ewers, briefly.
And Archman. Yeah.
They were in their collective faces pretty much the entire game. Ewers, 25 for 43, 211, and an interception, but also 2 fumbles. Manning had a fumble he lost. Ewers ran for negative 34 yards in the game. Of course, that did include his sack numbers.
Yeah.
Georgia had 7 sacks in the game.
Check. That is absolutely true.
And their defense was literally everywhere, except for the one play where there was pass interference, but there wasn't pass interference.
So now we know the way to go about that one now, don't we?
Yeah. Plastic bottles on the field, and the refs will overturn the decision.
Buy some time so you can complain. Absolutely true. I mean, Quinn Ewers on the day finished with only 211 yards passing, but that was on 43 attempts, and so that's basically what, maybe 4.5 yards per attempt.
4.9 to be exact.
Thank you. And then Arch Manning comes in to kind of give a change of pace, 3 of 6 for 19 yards. But the one thing that we did not hear on the audio involved there at the field of DKR was this. Quick impression of both of the quarterbacks running for their lives. So
yeah, Georgia's Carson Beck wasn't much better. 23 for 41, a $175, and 3 interceptions.
yeah, but I mean, if you create pressure in short fields and you're clinical about it, then it win. It don't matter that if you force mistakes and you get short fields out of the deal and you put points on the board, kind of like South Carolina did out in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
they only had 73. Yeah, 70 yards of total offense in the first half, and you had more points on the board than almost than yards. But no, it was I think this was the dusted off wake up call for Texas, because I talked about it last week, and I'm not one to toot my own horn, but toot toot, quoting the great Art Anderson. Here's the schedule to coming up to this weekend for Texas. Colorado State, you won by 52. You go to Ann Arbor, you win by 19. We now
really bad Michigan team.
We now know that Michigan ain't all that. At home against Texas San Antonio, you win 56-7. At home against Louisiana Monroe, you win 51-3. Sidebar, their Warhawks logos that they're doing this season, very cool. Mississippi State, 35-13 in Austin. Oklahoma and Red River, 34-3. So that's what you did to get to 6-0. Colorado State, in Ann Arbor, Texas San Antonio, Louisiana Monroe, Mississippi State, Red River. That got you to 6-0. That don't scream like a whole lot of early season tests for Steve Sarkisian in Texas, and then you get your first test in leg 7, and you lose 30-15. I'm hoping that this sends up a flare to Texas to sit there and it's like, yeah, we got stuff to work on. I'm sure there are a lot of folks on social media here this weekend leading into the beginning of the week sitting there going, welcome to the SEC, brother. Bottom line, you got your wake-up call. What do you do with it from here? That's my biggest question for Texas.
Yeah, and to steal a quote from episodes of the review from years gone by, Texas is back.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
An interesting game. Look for the Longhorns to drop in this week's polls, the Bulldogs to rise possibly as far as number 2. I don't see them as being the number 1 team, but I guess I could be wrong in that respect. The team that likely will be number 1 this coming week, the Oregon Ducks. The Duckies took care of business as they traveled to West Lafayette, Indiana, and destroyed Purdue 35-0.
Yeah. Biggest noise that came out of Purdue is probably from the bass drum at halftime.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see if they can hold that. Oregon has a reputation for coughing up a game they probably shouldn't over the course of the season. That's not something they can get away with here in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true. And, once again, it's one of those elements where you're going, okay, what can these teams bring to the table? And we found out that it might be a bit of a longer slog than normal, but you took care of business against the team that you needed to take care of business against. And there's a reason that the joke is that they call the Boilermakers per don't. And this was another one of those reasons.
Yeah. They have an interesting end to the season, their last 5 games. The ranked Illinois Illini is coming on CBS, followed by a trip to the Big House to Michigan, which they should take care of business. Oregon has Maryland and goes to Wisconsin and finishes up with Washington. All games that should be winnable for the Ducks, and they could be very well your number 1 seed going into for lack of a better way to put it, the NCAA football tournament.
The postseason extravaganza that, welcome to playoff football Division I. Everybody else has been doing it ever since. So yeah, first road shutout in 30 years for Oregon on Friday night.
Other top-ranked teams took care of business. The big exception might be the Alabama Crimson Tide, who have now lost, wait for it, twice after going to Knoxville and losing to the Tennessee Vols 24-17.
I'm just waiting for legend on Paul Feinbaum on Monday. That's strike two, man. You thought strike one was bad. That's strike two in your first season, Kalen DeBoer. You've only gone 7 games, and you got strike two, man. I mean, I legitimately thought and once again, Arn Anderson, you and me, 2-2. I didn't think that Alabama was going to win that one either. And Tennessee, Jalen Milroe had to throw a lot to try to come back. But once again, you manage in a game like this, you manage the team that you feel might have some kind of decided advantage on one aspect of offense. Let them have it between the 20s. Literally, just do whatever you're going to do between the 20s. I don't care. You can get 80 yards and get to the 20-yard line. That's when I want my defense to respond. And Alabama,
Tennessee did.
yeah, the box score, if you look at, like scoring per quarter, 0737. And no, that is not the last 4 digits to Kalen DeBoer's office phone on the UAT campus.
At least not the
No, but 0737. That's what the scoring was for Alabama in that game on the road. Tennessee was down 7-0 at the half. They responded in the second half with 24 second half points, and it was 14-10 after 3. And they answered when Alabama answered. Tennessee answered in kind. And so Tennessee right now 6-1. Do not be surprised if these two teams change numbers as well, going from 7-11, and you sit there and you flip these two by the time you look at it. But it's a quality win for Tennessee. But questions, man, in Tuscaloosa. I can't wait for Paul on Monday.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of this game. It was not exactly pretty or well played, but the Volunteers took care of business. Other teams ranked up there in the top 10 this week. Miami eked one out in Louisville. Shootout games.
Taking the over was such
a win in Louisville.
Oh, it was an easy play.
Did what they had to do. LSU with a big win at Arkansas, 34-10. The Bayou Bengals seem to be getting better as the season goes on.
Well, but I mean, Arkansas is okay, and right now Sam Pittman has to deal with okay, and LSU, they took care of business in a game that they that they were favored in, should have won, and they did. Arkansas, they're 6-6, 7-5. They'll go to a bowl game. They'll be a part of the discussion. I think that you look at what Sam Pittman is having to work with, and I would ask for patience in a situation like this and work with the man. But I don't know how many more cold beers he's going to have there in Fayetteville and/or Little Rock.
Yeah, arguably one of the best games of the weekend, Iowa State and UCF. UCF darn near pulled off the upset, having the lead late in the game before Rocco Becht, one of the better names as a college football quarterback.
I think isn't his dad Anthony the head coach of your St. Louis Battlehawks in the U?
I believe he is. Rocco called his own number, scores on the quarterback sneak late in the game, and Iowa State squeaks out the win 38-35.
Do not drop the ball before you cross the goal line. Hang on to it, son.
Yes, that arguably may have been what cost UCF the game when Braden Marshall picks off Becht, returns the ball, has free, smooth sailing into the end zone, and thinks he's going to celebrate by dropping the ball.
Oh, he did. He celebrated all right.
He wasn't quite over the goal line when he did it. He fumbles. Iowa State recovers. Cost the Knights an extra 6 points.
Please, and if you're on the UCF campus, For this week, what I would recommend is, this weekend, today, Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, get all of the anger and angst out of your system. The slings and arrows are not worth it past the immediate. What I would do on campus, take a football, put it in the young man's hands, tape it. He's not allowed to take the tape off his hand, and that football stays in that hand, and he walks around campus as a reminder this week when he's not at football practice about how to hang on to the football. Just hang on to the football. Don't be that person on social media that wants to get into name calling and all that kind of stuff. Just, I know we see more of it than we should. One is too many. Hang on to the football before you cross the plane, get into the end zone, then you can drop the football and do whatever.
You realize had he scored, that would have been the second pick six for UCF in the game.
Yeah. But once again, just look. They're young men at heart, at the heart of the matter. Just, if you want to sit there and yell once, get it out of your system, but tape a football to the young man's hands on campus this week as a reminder. He will never forget that moment.
Another crazy game in Provo, Utah. BYU jumps to 7-0 with a 38-35 win over Oklahoma State in a bizarre and crazy game.
No.
Jake with a 35-yard TD pass with 10 seconds left to go in the game.
But I mean, legitimately, taking the over was probably the easiest play, one of the easier plays on the board this weekend, because you figured any game involving Oklahoma State is not going to have a whole lot of defense. And this true to form against number 13 BYU. Now, Oklahoma State's 3-4 with this loss, and BYU ranked 13 going into the week is now 7-0. We always know that three of my favorite words are Marvin, Velma, and Provo. And going to 7-0, they're in a bit of a run right now in the Big 12. They're 4-0. And so I will be intrigued to see where this run continues for BYU. But much like the game with Louisville and the University of Coral Gables, taking the over was the easiest play with those two. Stay away from the spread, take the total, go over, and then some.
Yeah, we talked a little bit last week with Brother Wilkie about Mike Gundy. The Cowboys dropped to 3-4, and I would still maintain that seat is in danger if this continues.
Agreed.
Going down the list, Clemson fights off a game, tough but not quite matched up Virginia team, 48-31 to win there. Clemson quietly has won 6 games in a row after getting trounced early at the beginning of the season by the Georgia Bulldogs.
Heck.
Texas A&M again.
Side of the helmet says ATM, Phil.
Yes, it does. And cash.
Here comes that oil money, but it was Mississippi State. And the thing is, I give Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State far more credit here in this one, considering how long they were hanging in there. 21-17 at the half, and then second half, third quarter, and so the depth that Texas A&M has against a Mississippi State team. This was one of our football on a budget games last week, by the way. To get in, and it was $5 or less. I think it went less and less and less as the week went further and further along. So I think it was a $3 get-in price to see Klanga and Texas A&M. What does that say about certain teams in the SEC right now, where Mississippi State drops to 1-6, and much like Arkansas, I'm hoping that the folks in Stark Vegas give Jeff Lebby some time. I don't know if they will.
They've shown signs of life the last 2 weeks. They played Georgia very tough in Athens as well.
Mm-hmm.
So some potential there. Got to talk about the Indiana Hoosiers.
Yeah, true.
They're now 7-0. Oh, by the way, Texas A&M 4-0. They currently are tied for the lead in the SEC with LSU. But speaking of Indiana goes to 7-0, 4-0 in the Big Ten after they didn't just beat Nebraska. They absolutely destroyed Nebraska, 57-7.
Yeah. Dylan Raiola, by the way, threw for 234 and 3 picks. Indiana, however, will be without I think they're going to be without their quarterback because of a thumb injury. I think Curtis Rourke, he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. He was in street clothes in the second half. It didn't matter. But early word out of Bloomington is that because of the throwing hand injury with his thumb, it looks like he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Taven Jackson replaced him for the rest of the game. Really didn't seem to matter going up against Nebraska, but Nebraska 5
had no answer for either guy.
And I know that, and I will say this: Kurt Signetti, he's a guy who he was living in the places where you don't get reported on every day. Did what he did at the 1AA level. Now he's doing it with Indiana, and I'm fairly certain that folks are going to be knocking on Bloomington's door to see about coaching vacancies and other conferences and such. This will be the interesting question for me and Kurt Signetti, currently 16th coming into this weekend, now 7-0 and 4-0. What does Kurt Signetti want to do? I mean, he's 63 years old, but this is what he does. This is who he is. He's a coach. Is Kurt Signetti going to want to continue to build in Bloomington, or
move on for the glory of someplace bigger?
Yeah, like the University of South Georgia Gainesville campus, if that changes with Billy Napier or something like that. Do you go for the big payday, or do you build in Bloomington? That, to me, is going to be the question for coaches like Kurt Signetti going forward.
Got to mention this one close to home for John. Missouri scores 15 unanswered.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the Auburn game. I thought you were going to talk about the Friday night game with the Duke and Florida State first.
Nah, we're not going to get into that one.
Missouri... But let me get into this one before we get into Auburn and Missouri real quick. Florida State drops to 1-6. And this is a household that has a pox on its and a curse on its college footballness this year, and we firmly believe it has to do with Auburn running up the score on Alabama A&M and the after effects therein. So there was a play in the Florida State Duke game on Friday night, which kind of personifies what's wrong with what's going on in Tallahassee. Luke Kromenhoek, who should have been given more patience as the second quarterback for Brock Glenn in this game, and was not. Throws an incompletion out of bounds into the Florida State sideline. A Duke defensive back tries to, make the jump and the grab and, defend against the receiver. He dives out of bounds and knocks over a Florida State, I'm guessing, coach, quality control coach, individual wearing Florida State gear, who is twice his size. Jumps up in the air, and you know how momentum does, momentum and gravity. You knock over a guy twice your size. It happens. So the defensive back gets up, and he's ready to run back to the huddle. The individual on the sideline for Florida State gets up, and he decides at this 170-pound defensive back that he's going to flex. He literally stands up, stares at the defensive back for Duke, and goes, the flex pose. He's flexing all of his manly muscles. What are you doing? What are you doing? You don't do that. You're trailing. You're on the verge of being 1-6 in the third quarter of a game at Duke, a team that has never beaten you. And you decide after this 170-pound defensive back knocks you over that you're going to stand up, and you're probably, high twos, maybe three spins, that you're going to stand up in your FSU gear and you're going to flex. What in the wide world of sports are you doing? Know your place. Remember where you are. Be humble about your gig. Personification of what's going on. Now, Auburn and Missouri. What we didn't know was that Brady Cook, after being injured, second possession of the game, was driven to a local hospital.
Got an MRI for his injured ankle.
Yeah.
And brought back.
Yeah.
And returned the game.
Yes.
And led Missouri to 15 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Game over.
Yes. Absolutely. And so you have this household that has Office HD in it that is a combined 3 wins right now. 1-6 with me and 2 wins for the boss. We firmly anticipate that this household may not win more than 6 games this year together, and that both of our coaches need to go. That's where we are right now in this household. And we blame Auburn running up the score on Alabama A&M, and karma, we know what she is. And so it has circled back, and it has put a pox and a gray cloud over this studio space here this year in college football.
Yeah, side note, this household is a combined 11-3 this season.
Oh yeah, not surprised. Not surprised.
And I'll leave that there because my Georgia Southern Eagles with a nice win over
You got a good win. You got a good win. It was a good win.
Lovely Bride, her Louisiana Raging Cajuns, an excellent win as they travel to Coastal Carolina 34-24.
Excellent win. Absolutely.
It's a shame Marty couldn't make it this week because I think he would be reveling in the fact that the Michigan Wolverines lost their third game of the season, this time to Illinois in Champaign, 21-7.
Who's the northern equivalent to Feinbaum? Do we know? Does that even exist as an individual?
Probably, but since we live in the South, we may not know who that person is.
Yeah, and I mean, and the reason I ask is because I mean Michigan, because they're Michigan, was 24th in the poll coming in this weekend, and it's name recognition. I get it. You've got to have a blue blood in there to give them a chance to get in because people want to see the Yankees and the Red Sox in the postseason tournament. I get it. Illinois, there were concerns from some of the folks that are close to us here at OSG Sports about Illinois' run defense. Apparently, it didn't need to be a concern considering that the leading rusher for Michigan had 87 yards. So big win for Burt. Big Burt now 6-1, 3-1 in the B1G, and so they should climb up a little bit. They'll be right behind SMU, who was 21st, and they got a win as well over Stanford.
Yeah, and a little bit behind Indiana.
Yeah, so I mean, there's going to be some movement northbound for Illinois, but this really should remind folks that there's a lot of work that needs to be done with Michigan. I mean, Michigan right now. Let's look before we move on to another game. Here's Michigan's schedule. You beat Fresno in Ann Arbor, and it took a pick six to get it to the margin that it did. Fresno was driving late. It was 23-10. If they'd scored, it would have been a one-possession game late in the fourth quarter. Pick six goes the other way, and then it finishes 30-10. Then you lose at home to Texas. Then you beat Arkansas State. You beat USC. And USC is another issue entirely. Then you end up with a win against Minnesota. You lose at Washington. You lose at Illinois. And so that's where you are involving this group. And you got Michigan State, which should be win number 5. But then you've got Oregon, Indiana, Northwestern, and Ohio State to finish out your year. 3 of your final 4 are heavyweights. You might be 6-6 by the time.
Barely bowl eligible at that. Real quick, big shout out to the service academies.
Yes.
Army jumps to 7-0 after Bryson Daly runs for not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 touchdowns. Daly, the quarterback, runs 31 times for 171, 5 TDs. How impressive.
Book it.
And Navy goes to 6-0 as they down Charlotte 51-7.
It was Charlotte, but our top 5 member sitting in the front row at the OSG Sports Athletic Club in insert capital city here didn't really need to do a whole lot. 7-13 for 117 and 3 scores. And he was the second leading rusher, 13 carries for 56 yards. I will say this. Here's your requested viewing for the weekend before you start your week. The 4-letter did a really cool thing involving Nick Saban and Coach's Film Room. And it is 2 minutes and 50 seconds. First and foremost, it did not feel like 2 minutes and 50 seconds because you had Saban at a telestrator breaking down what Drew Cronick has done as offensive coordinator for that outfit. And so right now you're seeing what Navy is doing, and it was a great breakdown of everything. So go find the Coach's Film Room involving Navy and what they're looking at with Drew Cronick. So Blake Horvath, huzzahs and hurrahs. The middies are 6-0.
Couple of quick games featuring teams not ranked in the top 25. South Carolina embarrasses Oklahoma in Norman, 35-9. South Carolina scoring 21 points in the first quarter before they even really had possession of the ball.
Right. Yeah, like I said, 73 yards of total offense at one point, and they had 21 points on the board. Big win for them on the road.
Other games of note, where was that? USC drops to 3-4, 1-4 in the Big Ten after they lose and blow a 14-point lead at Maryland.
And I know that a lot of folks are going to sit there and discuss all the travel that's associated with all of these teams in their new conferences. Sorry, that's a you problem. You wanted to go into these conferences. You wanted to dissolve the conferences you were going to be in through your own actions. The fact that this first year, I think, is going to be a learning experience for a lot of these teams that are in their new conferences through galactic realignment and figuring out, okay, how do we manage ourselves to get ready for these cross-country trips? And that's going to be a big learning experience. And unfortunately, this season, it is OJT, on-the-job training, and it just so happened that Maryland got the win to go to 4-3, getting 15 points in the fourth quarter, winning 29-28. Oops.
The whispering getting much louder about Lincoln Riley's job. I wouldn't say his seat is ghost pepper yet, but at the very least,
it is Santa Ana wind temperature is what it is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Prime, his Colorado Buffaloes moved to 5-2 with a 34-7 win over Arizona.
Got out to a hot start. They needed to do that.
The Fighting Diego Pavia's Vanderbilt goes to 5-2 after beating Ball State 24-14. One more win, and the Commodores are going bowling.
Yeah, and the boss is looking at the game against Auburn for that to happen. That's where. Well, I mean, it would be the second time in 2 years for two different schools that Go Diego Go has beaten Auburn, and the boss is not going to be surprised. We have, full disclosure here at Office HD, we have supported the Vanderbilt NIL specifically for Go Diego Go. We have the T-shirt here in the house with Pavia's name on the back of it because we firmly believe in what they've done, transferring Las Cruces east to Nashville.
And one more game that just kind of jumps out at me for some.
Dakota Marker.
No, I was going to get into that. Florida and Kentucky. Florida wins 48-20. DJ Langway got the start at quarterback. Check this out, John. He went 7 for 14 for 259 yards.
I know.
And no touchdowns.
I know. He had a pick. Well, but when you got a running back that crashes for 5 scores, it's like basically everything that happens from the 20-yard line out, that's what DJ Lagway was responsible for. Then you hand it off, you get the scores. So that was the fun part there. It took you how many weeks to figure out that you needed to have DJ Lagway as your quarterback? Entirely too many, I think, is the answer to that question. I mentioned Dakota Marker, and I did it on purpose because last night it was at the Fargo Dome, and it looked fantastic on television, and props to the 4-letter for giving it the attention that it deserved for a game like that. North Dakota State and South Dakota State. North Dakota beat Northern Iowa 31-7. That was kind of the appetizer for the whole thing. Night game at the Fargo Dome, absolutely fantastic.
Didn't that one go down to the buzzer?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of always does, And so South Dakota beat Youngstown. Sorry, Marty. 13-9. Cam Miller find Rajon Nelson for the go-ahead North Dakota State score. But once again, now North Dakota State goes to 7-1, 4-0 in what's left of the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Our Jacks, the Jackrabbits, dropped to 5-2. After they had a 9-7 lead at the half, they were held scoreless in the second half. North Dakota State gets Dakota Marker 13-9.
And there is your wrap-up of week number 8, folks. A lot of stuff going on, some interesting games. When we come back in the second half of the show, we're going to talk about week number 9 because that promises some excitement as well. Week 9. All that more, we return for the second half of the review. You are listening to the review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Please like and subscribe. Over here in the OSG Sports side of things, we talk football. Football. college football version here with the college football review every single week. But for those of you that like not just football with two O's, but football with a U, Futbol, there's the Soccer Down Here Network. I'm John Nelson. I host the morning show on Soccer Down Here along with Jarrett Smith, Nick Alifi, Jason Longshore. And if you're looking for the best information when it comes to the world of soccer, based in the southeastern United States, but we don't leave anything off the table. 9:05 Eastern time until 11 whenever. Sometimes we go for a while. SDH Network morning show, soccer's morning show, Monday through Friday, plus all the live events we do. It is your place and your source for soccer that is based in the Southeast, but covers everything on the world. SoccerDownHere.net, the Soccer Down Here app, available iOS and Android through our friends at Spreaker. That's like speaker with an R in the middle. Spreaker, do a search for OSG Sports, do a search for Soccer Down Here. All the soccer content all in one place. It is the SDH Network and Soccer Down Here.
Thanks for sticking around, folks. You have made it to the second half of the show. This is where we talk about the upcoming week's game, in this case, week number 9, along with football on a budget.
Number 9.
Talk about games that you could get into for the low price, usually the price of a Coca-Cola or soda of your choice.
Soda of your choice.
Depending on your preference and what part of the country you are in.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start off with the schedule. We've got pretty much a full week of football games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday,
and Saturday,
along with the usual Saturday mix-ups. Your Tuesday and Wednesday games, mostly Conference USA and MAC action. But we get later in the schedule, I'll just mention really quick, my Georgia Southern Eagles playing on a Thursday night. I will try to be watching that game as it's on ESPN2 as we travel to Norfolk to take on Old Dominion. We've got the lead in the Sun Belt East.
Look at you with the Fun Belt and Clay Helton. Attaboy.
Woo!
Woo!
Go to the big games on the board first, and we'll start with a whole slew of games that are times determined, including
I'm going to use my first time out. Friday night, Boise at UNLV.
Oh,
sneaky good game on Friday night. Boise travels to UNLV. For those of you that missed the conversation that we had with the play-by-play voice of the Boise State Broncos, Bob Beeler, had him on the College Football X last week. He ran the anchor legs, so you can catch back up on that conversation. He kind of previewed UNLV a little bit. Broke down the season for Boise State. So Boise State and UNLV late night Friday. So if you go to a high school game, by the time you get home, you can go on CBS Sports Network and watch Boise and UNLV.
And see the best running back that gets no publicity, and that's Ashton Jeanty, the running back for the Boise State Broncos. He is absolutely fantastic. And
he's the ish.
Your Heisman Trophy winner as the best college football player this season.
Might be Travis Hunter, but okay.
I will go with Mr. Jeanty. I'd take him every single.
I know. It's like our 5 front row seats at the OSG Sports Athletic Club include, without a question, Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, Blake Horvath, Jalen Milroe, and who is our 5th? Diego Pavia. So that's our 5 that make it to the OSG Sports Athletic Club so far.
Some interesting matchups this week, and you mentioned briefly Diego Pavia.
Woo!
Diego and the Vanderbilt Commodores host Texas Longhorns coming out of that Georgia game. They are playing this one at First Bank Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. This is going to be an interesting matchup because I'm really curious to see how hungover Texas is going into this game.
Yeah.
And they better be careful.
Correct. Because I think the same philosophy and formula that Vanderbilt used against Alabama, they will use against Texas. I mean, they're not going to surprise anybody with it. But yeah, if Texas is too hungover, the bowl eligibility in Nashville. If you thought for a second, by the way, get-in prices, we're talking $155. If you thought the 3-mile hike to throw an upright into the river meant something last time out,
yeah, imagine what happened
They're taking both of them. They're throwing them both in the river, and it ends up being an international incident. I can guarantee it.
Absolute bedlam in Nashville if Vanderbilt somehow finds a way to.
I don't see it, but I'd love to see it.
Another interesting SEC matchup that a game time still to be determined, and this is for sole possession of first place in the SEC, believe it or not. LSU travels to College Station to take on Texas A&M. Both of these teams undefeated in SEC play.
Yeah, you add 2-0 and 2-0, and you get 4-0, and I mean it's. Actually, sorry, you had 2-0 and 4-0. You get 6-0 because there were two teams at 2-0 to get to Texas A&M, who's right now at 4-0. Get in price and Kyle Field, $235. That's a no. I something has happened in the last couple of weeks to Texas A&M offensively. They seem to have figured things out. LSU, I think that if you look at young Nussmeier, make sure that he doesn't throw the ball 50 times. If he does, that means that LSU is trailing. I still think that the over is the play in this one, regardless of what the number is. I'm not going for any kind of a winner because I could give you cases for both losing this one completely and totally horribly. So I'll take the over, and we'll see what happens between number 8 and number 14 as we're talking.
Some other interesting matchups. Here's one that intrigues me a lot.
Oh.
Notre Dame travels to East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Oh.
12 o'clock kickoff.
Ooh.
This could be a really, really interesting game because Notre Dame doesn't see a team like Navy pretty much ever.
No. And we have discussed what Drew Cronick has done with the Navy offense. I think that Navy, if they have it their way, they have one possession a quarter and score 28 points. Can Notre Dame match them? I think that is the question. And this is not an offense that we are traditionally used to seeing from Navy. So this is going to be one of the biggest exams that Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame have had in quite some time. I'm really looking forward to this one.
We talked a little bit in the first half of the show about the Oregon Ducks, likely your number one team going into week number 9. They host the Fighting Illini at Autzen Stadium.
Yeah.
Two ranked teams. Illinois expected to break the top 20 this week.
Yeah.
Not interested.
Nah, this is, I think, a wake-up call for Brett Bielema. I think it is. I think Oregon puts up a number. Get in price $42.
Another game. Here's a game that once upon a time used to mean a lot. This season probably doesn't mean a darn thing. John's Florida State Seminoles travel to Hard Rock Stadium to take on the Miami Hurricanes.
We're gonna get whacked. I mean, look. 7 o'clock on the 4-letter, get in price, $96. Don't waste your money. I mean, legitimately, there are, let's see how many other games there are in that section of South Florida that you can attend for a far more economical price and really thoroughly enjoy yourself differently than you would otherwise. Wow, there aren't any in Division I. So spend your money elsewhere. Maybe watch this one on TV from a sports bar or your favorite juice box establishment. Don't waste your time. Legitimately, I could see Florida State beating Charleston Southern. And then, I mean, top end for Florida State this season, 4-8 right now, because there are some games. There's the game with
promising.
There's the game involving the team from South Georgia Gainesville campus. There's the team involving the game involving the team from North Carolina. So, yeah, so two sure, provided you beat Charleston Southern for homecoming, maybe maxing out at 4. And, yeah, good luck on this. So don't waste your money.
Another game featuring two teams that you would not expect to be in this discussion right now, but here we are. This game is intriguing to me because Cincinnati travels to Boulder to take on Colorado. Both teams 5-2 and playing gradually becoming better as the season goes along.
Yeah. I think Colorado wins a close one. Probably the over is once again the play here. 10:15 Eastern time on the 4-letter get in price at Folsom Field, $163. I think Colorado wins a tight one.
A couple rivalry games. Kansas and Kansas State. Kansas
Ooh.
really struggling this season. Kansas State doing what Kansas State does, a top 20 team that continues to do what they need to do in order to win games.
Yeah, get in price at Bill Snyder Family 153. I think Kansas State takes care of business.
I'm trying to look to see what else is here. A little bit intrigued by the Georgia Tech Virginia Tech game. Georgia Tech struggled last week without their starting quarterback
With Haynes King, yeah.
in a loss in Notre Dame, and Virginia Tech's quietly having a pretty solid season, at least for them.
Yeah, and this is once again one of those early kickoffs at Lane Stadium, so it could cause some early problems for Georgia Tech. So that's what I think. I mean, legitimately, what is Haynes King looking at? How is his health? How does Georgia Tech respond? Slow start will not help them out. So I'm looking legitimately at Virginia Tech winning a low-scoring game with a noon kick.
Another rivalry game here as we kind of wind things down in the look ahead part of the show.
Yes.
Michigan State and Michigan, a game that once upon a time was a really, really big deal. Now it's a 7:30 kickoff on the Big Ten Network.
Don't waste your time. Have fun with other games and do other things. Do not get bogged down in that old rivalry. Please. Please, baby. Please, baby, 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 please don't do it. Washington and Indiana, how will Indiana be without their starting quarterback for the next couple of weeks? That one's going to be an intriguing one. It's also a noon kick at Memorial Stadium in Bloomington. Get in price of $55. Oklahoma and Ole Miss, two teams brought to us by the letter O, and that's about it. I think that Oklahoma, they're having a rough year. I think Ole Miss takes care of business. This may not be the prettiest game and one that you hang on a picture frame by the time that you're done. And legitimately, it's like you have extremes here. You've got decent games, and you've got games that I wouldn't wish on anybody else, unless you really hate somebody and you want to just, hey, there's a game in Coral Gables you need to go watch. Go to Hard Rock and watch this one. That one you wish on people that you don't like.
Yes. Speaking of low budget games, let's talk about everybody's favorite segment, and that's college football on a budget.
Hit me.
And we got to start with the first game of the week, a 7:30 game on ESPNU on a Tuesday night at Pitbull Stadium. You can watch
Southgate Kia Field at Pitbull Stadium, sir.
You can watch Sam Houston take on Florida International. Get in price for that one, $9.
Well, I mean, I would go see this one instead of the one that's going to be at Hard Rock later because it's Sam Houston. Sam Houston really doing well in Conference USA this year. So I will give this one ding, one ping only, Basili. One ping.
It could be intriguing if for no other reason it's cheap enough that you could run the risk. You could go with the chance that you might actually run into Mr. Worldwide while you are there.
Mm-hmm.
Also on Tuesday night, UTEP takes the trip to Ruston, Louisiana to take on Louisiana Tech. You get in price for that one, $11.
Joe IA. If you haven't been already this year, mark that one off your calendar as a place that you haven't been to. Go to see a game in Ruston. If you've been, circle back for a better game. But if you haven't been to Joe IA, then check this one out for $11. It gets a conditional ding.
We move on to Thursday night's matchups. Your budget game, my Georgia Southern Eagles travel to Norfolk to take on Old Dominion at SB Ballard Stadium. Right now, 1 week out, you can get in the door for that game for a whole $3.
Ding, ding, ding. I'm in on that one because it's at $3. And if you haven't been, because SB Ballard's been up a couple of times this year, once again, it gives you a chance to go to a place you've never been before. $3, decent play, ding, ding, ding.
Look for my Eagles to win that game, at least hopefully. Going on down the list, Friday night, get some ACC action. Louisville traveling to Boston College. You can get in $11 at Alumni Stadium in beautiful Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts.
Well, and this is when the colors are starting to change on the trees. So it's one of those great, really cool environments as everything turns to fall. you haven't been to Chestnut Hill, this might be one of your few opportunities to get into a game on football on a budget. So I would give it a conditional ding, because then you can go sample Boston and see what else is there while you go. So Chestnut Hill gets a ding from me.
We move on to Saturday.
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 Uh,
You want to
T-
take a trip to Houston, folks? You could go to the Utah
TDECU.
versus Houston game at beautiful TDECU Stadium. You can get into that game for a whole $5.
Nah, there are other things to do in Houston. It's been a transitional year for Willie Fritz in Houston and Utah. I think Cam Rising is going to try and chase after a 32nd year of eligibility because he's out injured.
Mm-hmm.
I would do other things in Houston.
Indeed. Or you could go to beautiful Athens, Ohio in the third week of October to watch Buffalo take on Ohio. You're getting price at Peden Stadium, $8.
Ding. I haven't been to Peden Stadium. That's a new one on the list. So I'll go ding and go, yes, Buffalo and Ohio, action.
Got to ding that one. Interesting place to go at the end of October because fall has kicked in at that point in time.
Yes.
Moving on down the list, speaking of games in Ohio, you could go see Central Michigan take on Miami of Ohio in Oxford, Ohio, another scenic town. I've been there at Yager Stadium. You're getting price for that one, $10.
Yeah, I'll go because once again, it's I'll go Yager Stadium for 11. I'll go ding there. And then $10 at Dowdy Ficklin for Temple in East Carolina. No.
No, yeah, you couldn't pay me for that one.
Nope.
Skipped over one there. Some SEC action.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Arkansas travels to Stark Vegas to take on Mississippi State at Davis Wade Stadium. You're getting price for that one, $5.
Ding. Because once again, it's SEC football. It's Arkansas, Mississippi State. You get to see Jeff Lebby on the rebuild. It'll be a rabid game because you know that Arkansas will travel, especially when they see the price tag. So I'll go ding. I'll go ding just to watch everybody else.
Here's one for you. Two of the lesser teams in college football. Rice traveling to East Hartford, Connecticut to take on UConn. You're getting price for that one, $11.
Nope.
Pass on that one.
Pasadena.
The next game on the schedule on the ACC network, Wake Forest travels to Stanford to take on the Tree. You're getting price at Stanford Stadium, $10.
Nah. I mean, while it's fun to hear the games on ACC network for Wake Forest and Stanford, I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, here's one that I definitely will pass on, but I have to reel it off.
Uh-huh.
UT San Antonio travels to Chapman Stadium in Tulsa, Oklahoma to take on Tulsa, the Golden Hurricane. You're getting price for that one, a whole $4.
Ding. I don't think we've been to Chapman Stadium this year, so I'm going to go ahead and sign it off on the list. Chapman Stadium, $4. Ding.
Yep, and I think that concludes our list for this week. Right
Hang
now,
on. Let's see what's going on in 1AA. You always want to cut off the smaller schools. Traditionally, our friends in the Ivy League, they get to do a lot. All right, so we'll go rapid fire here.
your expensive game, by the way, right now, the most expensive game on the board, 1 week out from week number 9. The LSU Texas A&M game, $235 to get into Kyle Field right now.
Yeah. Okay, so here are some that are close to football on a budget. Yale and Penn, Friday night, 7 o'clock on the U. Franklin Field, historic Franklin Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's a ding for me. It's $13. It's Franklin Field. It's a great environment for
and it's a rivalry game.
So $13 also for Duquesne and Stonehill at WB Mason. Like the hot dogs, WB Mason Stadium at Northeastern Mass. Once again, $13. I'll ding that because we haven't been there this year.
I've never even heard of Stonehill.
That's what I'm saying. You got another couple that are $13 if you want to go see Albany and Delaware, Utah Tech and Eastern Kentucky, and $13 for New Hampshire and Villanova. $8 at Kenneth P. Laval Stadium in Stony Brook, New York for Bill and Mary in Stony Brook. Sounds like it's a crowded booth at a restaurant. Bill, Mary in Stony Brook. Also $13
for a musical group.
It is, yeah. Bill and Mary singing Stony Brook. $13 to get into 5-star down at Mercer for Western Carolina and Mercer in the SoCon. $8 at Forterra Stadium in Clarksville, Tennessee to catch up with our buddy Brian Reeves. Tarleton State and Austin Peay. Fly is open. Let's go Peay. That gets a ding for me. Also, the Unidome in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Missouri State and Northern Iowa, 5 o'clock Eastern kick. Wilkie, I know, would ding the daylights out of this one because it's Missouri State.
Yes.
So ding, ding, ding for the Unidome. $10, Sacramento State, who's not very good, but they did run a no, it wasn't Sorry, it was Cal Poly. Sacramento State and Idaho State at the ICCU Dome in Pocatello. $10, Sacramento State and Idaho State. Let's see, and that'll do it for 1AA. I'm going to check quickly for Division II. So if you have not gone to any of these places that we name, we always do this to widen everyone's horizons when it comes to this kind of a thing. So go explore places you've never explored. If your team has a week off, or if you can go someplace quick and you can sit there and say, well, yeah, I saw them at this place. Only one game right now that has a price up, and it is not football on a budget, but Lane is playing at Savannah State at T.A. Wright this upcoming weekend in Division II. So that's your rundown of football on a budget on the 1AA scale.
And college football, there's a lot more there than just the games that you see in prime time on ESPN or ABC.
Amen, brother.
Or or whatever network of your choosing. There's a lot of games out there that don't get the love, don't get the publicity or the attention that they deserve. And it's really worth your time to go take the trip to some of these places if you're able to do it.
What he said.
John, what do you say we put a wrap on things for this week?
You got it. Don't forget, coming up in the midweek is the College Football X. We take the tour about what's going on, get you ready for the weekend that is when it comes to college football. We'll go through some of the great voices, and yours truly is going to see if we can track down what happened when Washita knocked off #1 Harding. Find out what happened there. That was a big upset in the other divisions. I want to say Division 3, Washita and Harding this past week. So we'll track that down, all the other stories coming up in the midweek on the College Football X. John Wilkerson and myself carry you through that one as well.
Well, for Brother Nelson, for Brother John, for Brother Phil, we are just two of the many members of the OSG Sports team. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening, watching, whatever you choose to do in order to get the entertainment that we provide and information that we provide. Information.
What?
Here on the review, where we talk college football.
We talk stuff. Get us out of here.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this weekend of college football and got something to look forward to in the following week. Thanks for tuning in. We will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Please like and subscribe. Follow us at theonlinesportsguys.com.